Pharaoh is a game I've long played since my childhood, and I've decided to give it a revisit since I think it would make some really interesting content. The game involves building a city from nothing in ancient Egypt, and involves tackling some issues that we'll discuss later. Upon starting my first mission, I immediately skipped the intro as it was just too boring. I initially started off by creating a simple road network, just a loop, and placed down houses so that my first residents could move in. I also placed down cheap wells so that my citizens could stay hydrated. After reaching 150 population, I unlocked the granary, which stores food, the hunting lodge, which collects the food, and in the bazaar, which supplies the food to the citizens. To evolve a house in this game, you need to supply your citizens with food and water. And once your houses have evolved, they can then move in more people. An evolved house has more room for people, enabling the city's population to grow. Sooner or later, I completed this mission easily and proceeded to Tinnis. For this mission, we further needed to evolve the houses by providing religion and entertainment, but we'll get onto that later. I immediately slowed down the game so that nothing can catch on fire or burn down, and immediately placed down mines. These gold mines are useful as it would allow us to create an infinite amount of money. I then placed a palace close to the mines so that the workers didn't need to travel so far. How this essentially works is that the workers carry gold all the way to the palace, and then that becomes part of our wallet. I then extended the road so that I could move in the citizens and have a close enough food source. I placed the fire and architect services at both ends of the road so none of them would get lost. Each of the services have a chance to walk in a random direction, so I put them at the end of the road, which made sense to me. I then added a police station to prevent anyone from stealing my money if there was high unemployment. I proceeded to move everyone in. After waiting for the unemployment to reach a certain level, I then decided to add the food source. But when I did this, I unlocked religion and entertainment. Religion allows you to obtain certain buffs from the gods, depending on what gods that are satisfied, as well as upgrading houses. Entertainment does the same thing, but without the gods or the buffs. I then placed down a temple and some entertainment and continued to watch my city grow. After realizing that some of my houses weren't evolving, I decided to demolish some of them, and then instead of replacing them with shrines. The shrines increased the land value around the houses, allowing them to evolve. So I just sat back and waited for a while, and after a few minutes, I had completed the mission. The next mission involves reaching a population of 600 and evolving our houses even further. As soon as we enter the mission, we are introduced to farming, a different way of obtaining food, which involves work camps being close to the farm so that the workers could just tend to it. So I immediately started placing fields on the floodplains. Roadblocks aren't unlocked yet, so this spaghetti road will have to do. I then placed the granary and the services at the far ends of the road, for the same reasons as before. I have left an area down below empty, as the space will be needed to produce pottery once it's unlocked. Clay pits are only placed next to water or floodplains, so this arrangement makes sense. After that, I then built in some houses, built a temple and a water source, and also a bazaar. A palace is not needed as my citizens will be too poor to pay tax. To make farms work, they must have access to work camps, so I placed them next to the water or floodplains, and then watched my villagers move in. I then used the festival square to pay for a festival to Osiris, to increase my chances of a good harvest. A good harvest essentially means that the amount of food you produce is increased. That's all you need to know. I then moved the festival square to the rest of my houses to improve the land value, as it increases the desirability around the local area where it's placed. As statues haven't been unlocked yet, there's a good way to evolve your houses. Once my first harvest was in, I immediately unlocked pottery, allowing my houses to upgrade even further than before. The game teaches you how to make clay, where it's sent, and where it's stored. Essentially in this process, a clay pit produces clay which is then sent to a pottery, which is then sent to a storage yard, which a bazaar collects for the citizens. After figuring out where would be the best place to place the storage yard, that's exactly what I did. After waiting a few minutes, I added some more farms just in case of a bad harvest. After a while, I also unlocked statues, which are just great for improving land value, rather than other objects in the game that weren't meant to be designed for that feature. I then started placing down some of the statues near my houses, and sooner or later, I completed the mission, and all of the houses were evolved. After watching a poorly made cinematic, I'm sure it wasn't poorly animated, it was just the technology at the time. I then started mission 4, with the goal of producing beer and unlocking trade. There is no gold on the map, so unlocking trade will be the first priority. So I started off by slowing down the game as I needed a lot of time before everyone moved in. I needed to build a lot, so this was crucial to getting everything correct. I then cleared some land and started placing grain and barley fields. These grain and barley fields will produce the food and beer that we'll later use. I placed the fields close to the water as possible to achieve maximum fertility, but knowing the lack of space, this was not possible. I then drew out 2 roads in a loop formation so that all services could reach each building without getting lost in random directions. I then used roadblocks to prevent services from passing through, while allowing citizens and goods to also pass through. I then added space for a bandstand, which allows for more entertainment to spawn in the housing area. This will be important later, as it will allow houses to upgrade to a higher level than before. I then added houses to the outside of the loop, so each building could access a worker pool. I placed down a well and a granary, as well as work camps, as we needed the farms to work straight away. There are 3 gods in this scenario, so I placed them in, as well as other essential services. I didn't know if I'd unlock the tax collector, yet I placed down a palace just in case. And it also boosts desirability. For beer and pottery, I needed space to store them, so I placed down a few storage yards and called it a day. I then added in additional health services to prevent malaria and the plague from spawning, and watched everyone move in. To not piss off the gods, I then placed a festival square to avoid disasters. These disasters could be detrimental to the city, as I didn't want storage yards collapsing or floods to fail, causing people to leave and me having to start all over again with no money. I placed a few statues to increase desirability and waited, as well as a plaza for all the residential roads as I was bored waiting. Soon enough, the first harvest came up, but I realised it was not going to be enough, so I had to wait even longer. As you'll soon find out in later missions, this game has a lot of waiting. While waiting, I probably had high unemployment, so I started my pottery and alcohol industries. Once my houses had evolved a bit, I further added some entertainment to upgrade them. I then expanded my food supply, and knowing Osiris had blessed us, I chose to build another granary in case I had a surplus, as I didn't want food to be wasted. After seeing a few people leaving and houses devolving, I saw that the harvest was almost finished. After receiving a ginormous amount of food, I then waited for the breweries to convert the barley into beer, so that all the houses could evolve and house more people, so I could reach a population of 1,000. Knowing I had high unemployment and a lot of barley, I put the citizens to good use and created more breweries. I then got another blessing from the gods, but that didn't matter as I was so close to finishing the mission anyways. A few houses weren't evolving, so I placed small statues to help them out. Sooner or later, I unlocked taxes, but that still didn't matter anyway, as I was close to finishing the mission. So I demolished some slums to tax my citizens. After producing enough beer and reaching 1,000 population, I had completed the mission without even unlocking trade. As you can see from this video, I'm trying out something new with this channel. If you'd like to see more videos that you're usually used to, please check out my main channel. And if you'd like to see more content like this, then please leave a comment with your opinions. Or you can consider supporting me on Ko-Fi or Patreon, as the remake of the game is much higher in quality and you don't need to put up with blurry graphics. It's only $20. My main channel is also demonetized, so support through Patreon is much appreciated. As for that, thank you for watching.